Let's catch up. I never share very many updates in the last video like this because starting this year, and preferably on the first day of 2025, I will be giving a New Year's address to all of you. I also got back from a local convention a few weeks prior. I was grateful to meet some local fans, as well as others who traveled to my hometown to attend that convention. Many were lucky because my booth was located near the entrance and I was the first to be seen. I met many anime fans, I met Genshin Impact players, I also met Mario fans, but I sadly never saw any Touhou cosplayers, and I only had one Touhou fan stop by my booth. Not to mention I was the only Touhou Doujin circle to be there. Anyway, enough about the convention. First of all, let's talk about the Drillimation Danmaku universe. We are only a month away before Touhou Kourinden, Mythos of Phantasmagoria officially releases on Steam. You can already buy the full game on itch.io, but the Steam version is my biggest focus. I almost hit a snafu with the Steam demo. Even hours after it was released, it was made unavailable to players, and what I learned was I forgot to republish the changes. That problem has since been fixed. Anyway, what's next for us? I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter and Instagram, and that's because I'm working on a sequel to the game I'm releasing. There's not much I can talk about here, but I do want to mention that the same graphic artist who did most of the sprites for Touhou Meijinka, Song of Divine Tempest, is returning for this new game. He may possibly be the sprite artist for every Super Nintendo style Drillimation game after that. However, every genre will come with its fair share of issues. While pinning the sprites for a Danmaku shooter was pretty straightforward, the sprites for an RPG are a little more complicated. While he was able to do most of the enemy sprites, as well as the background tiles, he could not get the correct tiles for the overworld characters, so I decided to undertake it myself. It was tough trying to learn his artistic style, but I eventually got used to it. This new game may not be released in more than a year, but I do plan to finish it by the end of this year. If you are interested in working on this project with us, don't hesitate to join my Discord server. The link to that is in the description. Let's move on to the second part of this video, and that is the technical challenges. Over a month ago, I was able to solve a problem that I've been fighting with my workstation for over 2.5 years. On a day-to-day basis when it comes to doing anything CPU intensive, whether it be making games, videos for this channel, or even anything involving 3D, I would almost certainly run into this big issue. One day in the summer of 2021, almost a month after Chuhou Joutai 2 Paraided released, I was trying to render my 100 subscriber special video to showcase a new song I was composing for the third Touhou Project NES demake, the Phantasmagoria of Dimensional Dreams. Halfway through the rendering process, my entire computer would lock up, and the screen would blank. No mouse button or key combinations would bring the screen back, leaving me no choice but to push the reset button on my workstation and corrupt the video being rendered. I initially solved my problem when somebody suggested I clear the media cache files, which in turn did the job. I also updated my graphics card driver to avoid crashes like these in the future. This problem seemed to go away for the latter half of 2021 until it started showing up again in the spring of the following year. The problem happened to lie in either Photoshop or most of the time Vroid Studio, which I used to design my characters. After days of extensive research, testing, numerous crashes, and even reinstalling my graphics card drivers multiple times, I could not use my workstation to get things done. Nothing had worked. As I previously mentioned, I was rendering my 100 subscriber special video and my system locked up. I pushed the reset button and tried again, and the same thing happened. When you have to deal with system lockups in Microsoft Windows, one of the first things you do is try to diagnose the issue using a program called Event Viewer. Any sort of problem your computer has should get reported here. Most of the time, the problem I'm trying to find isn't listed. This means I would have to go on either Reddit or contact the program's developer for advice, but half of the replies I received didn't fix my problem. I had to drill much deeper. I later learned this problem had something to do with my graphics card. One of the first things I did was spray compressed air, removing all sorts of crap that had gotten in there ever since I built it in the summer of 2020. This method somewhat helped. When I was having the same issue with Vroid Studio, a Microsoft support representative asked me to try something odd. What I meant was performing an in-place upgrade. This essentially reinstalls Windows without removing your applications and files. This was the very reason I got my MacBook, and my configuration cost roughly the same amount of money I spent building the workstation. As a result, I moved video editing and live streaming to that thing. This problem started again when I got VRM Posing Desktop to make taking Vroid photos much easier. I was preparing my semi-final social media image for 2022, and right when I was done adjusting the models and ready to take the picture, it happened again. My system locked up as usual, erasing all of my work and forced me to start all over. In that case, VRM Posing Desktop work got moved to the MacBook. Last year, it happened multiple times while I was playing Minecraft. Randomly while I was playing the game, my system would lock up and produce the aforementioned issue. First of all, I thought my graphics card was getting too hot. When that wasn't the cause, I later thought the problem was coming from my CPU. I moved Minecraft to my graphics card and it took the load away from the CPU, though my graphics card would still get pretty hot, reaching up to 38 degrees Celsius, or roughly 100 degrees Fahrenheit. While it solved the problem for the most part, my system still soft-locked. I am not calling out on or expressing criticism toward any company, whether it be Adobe, Pixiv, Elven Game Dev, Microsoft, Mojang, or Nvidia. I tried all of the solutions I could find online and did all sorts of things to see if I could fix this issue. The first thing that can cause this problem is low virtual memory. What I did was ordered a 500GB SSD and installed that into my system. I increased the amount of virtual memory by putting the page file onto that thing, but I had no luck. The second thing I did was replace the power supply by going up from 650 watts to 750 watts. That too didn't fix the problem. I later found out I was likely going to have to get a new graphics card to replace the old one. As a test, I ordered 2 VGA to DisplayPort cables and I hooked them up. Unfortunately, I could only hook up one of them because neither one would fit into my monitors due to space restrictions. I went into the other room and dug out this Hewlett-Packard branded monitor, which I think was my grandmother's, and hooked up the DisplayPort cable. It didn't have the power cable, so I used the one from my old power supply and it works perfectly. Right when I was about to get that new graphics card, the problem went away. Turned out it was a bad VGA cable. I had to connect it to converters because my graphics card doesn't have a VGA port. I get it, VGA is old school and outdated. I will eventually have to get that graphics card because as of this video's writing, Nvidia discontinued the GTX line, which is what my workstation uses. I do plan to continue using it until Nvidia discontinues driver updates for my graphics card. Some of you are probably talking about the fate of this monitor. If you were at the Erie Anime Fest, you may have seen it at my booth playing a presentation of Drillimation's history and gamography. This monitor is over a decade old, and I received it as a graduation present in the summer of 2014 when I finished junior high school. And this was a few months before Drillimation was even a thing. This monitor got me through a lot of years. This was the very one I hooked my Nintendo Switch up to when I got it on day one. I did have some issues with it over the years. Sometimes it would not detect a signal whenever I'd resume my system from sleep, but it also happened whenever I'd turn on my machine. It also had overscanning issues when hooked up via HDMI, and it only displays correctly on VGA. I will definitely miss using this monitor all the time. Also, you may have seen it in my New Year's address. I shot this video in blazing 60 FPS. Last December, I got a new webcam so that I can record videos in 1080p and 60 FPS. In all previous videos, with the exception of a few from 2023, I recorded them using my iPad. While the rear camera shot at 1080p, the front-facing camera could only shoot in 720p and 30 FPS. That is not what I was looking for. I shot my New Year's speech using my phone, which can shoot at 1080p at 60 FPS, but the front-facing camera couldn't like my old iPad. At first, I thought my old webcam could shoot at 60 FPS, but nope. My MacBook's webcam also shot at 720p at 30 FPS. My new webcam solves this problem. The last part of this video is a project I am working on. If you saw over the past few months, I decided to start doing Windows Touhou style originals, using some of the same instruments that are used in Touhou 6, the embodiment of Scarlet Devil. But I don't have all of the instruments from the module they originate from. If you played any mainline Touhou game from Touhou 6, the embodiment of Scarlet Devil onwards, you probably recognize this instrument used in the scores of their soundtracks. That instrument is, in fact, the romantic trumpet. It's actually an edited mariachi trumpet sample used for Latin American music, which is nicknamed the Zune Pit by players. For non-musicians, you might not know where this instrument originates from, though you still recognize it. This is especially true for newer players who came in during the 2010s. I started playing Touhou in the late 2000s. I already explained what the instrument is, but where does it come from? You're probably wondering where this iconic instrument in Touhou history originates. This instrument can be first heard in a soul as red as a ground cherry, which plays during the first stage of the embodiment of Scarlet Devil. This was in 2002, and the module the instrument originates from was released a year earlier in 2001. The module you're looking for is the Roland Edirol SD-90. Part of the Studio Canvas series, it is a top quality MIDI synthesizer, audio mixer, and effect processor, all powered by USB. Believe it or not, there exist 3 versions of this module. The SD-90 and SD-80 are pretty much the same thing and feature the same instruments. The much smaller SD-20 only features half of the instruments that its older siblings have. One of my biggest focuses is to have a complete, accessible version available to aspiring musicians wanting to write music in Zune's iconic style. I only have one of the SD-90's instrument sets, and that is the Contemporary set. It's available for download on Musical Artifacts, but I also uploaded it to the Internet Archive due to how sluggishly slow the former site is. I also have some of the instruments from the other sets, but that's not enough. My mission is to have all of them in one sound font. I tried googling the instrument sets, but what I found in terms of SF2 files was disappointing. Many of the ones available were incomplete. Even if I include SD-90 in the search term, I would end up at a dead end. There's also Roland Cloud, which you can subscribe to for a monthly fee, but I found no mention of either module. After many search queries on Google and the Internet Archive, I ended up finding nothing. Indeed, some users have made posts on Reddit asking where they can find these instruments, but many of these replies are useless. I am not going to give up. I vow to do everything in my power to find all these instruments. I can't do this alone. This means I will have to request your help. Will I have to buy either the SD-80 or 90 and extract the instruments from there? This module is over 2 decades old, so I don't think it may work properly on my modern system. There may be something else I missed. If you happen to own either module and would like to help with the project of extracting the entirety of the module, I recommend you join my Discord server, which is linked in the description. That way, you can discuss ideas I may have never considered. To increase the likelihood of success, please also like this video and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on Twitter and Instagram so you don't miss any updates on new leads I find in this project. I'm requesting the help of all of you so we can make this possible. That about wraps up this video for now. If you live in or are coming to my hometown, I hope to see you on that eclipse next Monday. I have a new PC98 original coming out this weekend to commemorate the eclipse, so subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Spring is already in full force, but it's autumn for our players in the southern hemisphere. It'll be a while before you see either cherry blossoms or autumn leaves. Additionally, we hope you look forward to the release of Touhou Kourinden, Mythos of Phantasmagoria on Steam next month.